Good day, everyone. Again, this is Teacher June. Welcome to my channel. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos to come. For today, since it's the start of the third quarter, what we are going to discuss are things that are related to geometry. First, what is the meaning of geometry? Geometry is a branch of mathematics that deals with the study of the properties of figures and spaces, meaning it has something to do with the shapes and relative arrangements of the parts of something that includes sizes, shapes, positions, dimensions, and measurements of things. Generally speaking, the word geometry was derived from two Greek words geo, which means earth, and metron, which means measure. Therefore, when we speak of geometry, we are actually dealing with the measurement of anything or almost everything that are found on earth. Okay, so before we proceed to our topic for today, here are some of the applications of geometry. Actually, there are a lot of applications of geometry in our daily lives, and here are some instances among those. First, we have CAD and architecture. When we say CAD, it stands for computer-aided design. Ito yung ginagamit ng mga civil engineers and architectures in designing buildings and infrastructures, yung mga shapes, yung design, yung structure, and anything that has something to do with computer-aided design has actually something to do or actually an application of geometry. Next, we have computer and video games or even mobile games. Paano ba ginagamit yung geometry sa mobile games? Of course, nandyan po yung graphics. Another is the motion or the movement of the heroes that we play. Say, for example, in Mobile Legends, paano nag-move yung bawat hero from one point to another. That's actually an application of geometry. Next, we have geographic information system. If we are familiar with GPS or global positioning system, may satellites, and then, or simply kung alam natin yung konsepto ng Google Maps, that is actually has something to do with geometry as well. Next is calculating area of land and perimeter of a lot. Kung meron ka mga property, say for example, may lupa kayo sa probinsya, how will you be able to know how big your property is? The best way to know is to compute for the area, and that has something to do with geometry. Also, perimeter, example, if you are going to fence the perimeter of your lot, you will be able to estimate how much is the cost of the materials that you are going to use in a particular fence of a lot. Next is we have sports, athletic fields, or equipments. Geometry, like any other branches of mathematics, is based on mathematical systems. We have the undefined terms. Next is the defined terms. Third, we have axioms or postulates. And fourth, we have theorems. In this lesson, we are going to focus on one of the mathematical systems, and that is undefined terms. Ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng undefined terms? What is undefined terms in geometry? Undefined terms, from the word itself, are terms that cannot be defined and can only be described or illustrated, meaning they don't have exact definition. Hindi natin alam kung ano yung ibig sabihin niya totally, but as it is said here, it can be described or it can be illustrated. Meaning, pwede natin siyang ilarawan, pwede tayong magbigay ng representation with regards to it, but basically, those things are undefined in geometry. Here are the undefined terms in geometry: point, line, and plane. Let's talk about these three undefined terms one by one. Let's start with number one, the point. A point has no dimension. When we speak of dimension, we are actually talking about the length, the width, and the thickness. And since it has no dimension, ibig sabihin, wala siyang length, wala siyang thickness, at wala din siyang width. Next description of a point is that it is an indicator of position, meaning if you are traveling from one place to another place, it seems that you are traveling from one point to another point. So in that case, a point indicates position. Third, we have it is usually represented by a small dot and is denoted by a capital letter. So meaning, yung representation ng point is actually a dot. Meaning, yung idea of a point is illustrated by a small dot. So ibig sabihin, kapag inisip natin yung point, we are not actually sure of what really a point is, but we have an idea of what a point is because it has an illustration and it is being illustrated or represented by a small dot. So ibig sabihin, pag nakakita tayo ng dot, we know that it is a point. And of course, it is denoted by capital letter, meaning the name of the point is represented by a capital letter. For example, we have here a point. This one is the point represented by a dot. This one is the name of a point denoted by a capital letter. Question is, how do we read this one? It is read as point A. So here are some of the pictorial representation of a point. As we can see in the picture, we have here, the first picture is the tip of a pen. The tip of a pen is actually a pictorial representation of a point, this part here. Another is location on a map. When we are looking for a particular location in a given map, we usually use a symbol dot, and it is actually a representation of a point. As I have said a while ago, when you are traveling from one place to another place, it seems that you are traveling from one point to another point. Another example we have here is beads. Next, on the undefined terms, we have line. First, description of a line. It is a set of points, meaning line is consists of infinite number of points interconnected with each other in a linear form. Meaning pag nagdrawing tayo ng point, infinitely, linearly, we can actually produce line. Second, we have it has infinite length but has no width and no thickness. When we say line, it already has a dimension, but 1D lang siya. It only has one dimension. Ang meron lang siya ay length. And what can we say about the length of a line? It is infinite, meaning it is endless. But it has still no width and no thickness. It is usually represented by a straight line with two arrowheads. So yung line is represented by a straight line with two arrowheads in both directions. Ano bang nire-represent ng arrowheads in both directions? meaning yung arrowheads in both directions of a line represents or tells us that the line is endless. It is infinite. It extends in both directions infinitely or without end. Next, a point is named using two capital letters or single small letter. There are two ways on how to name a point. The first one is by naming it using two capital letters. And the second way on how to name a line is by single small letter. Paano po yun? We have here a line with two arrowheads in both directions, meaning it can be extended towards this direction, and it can also be extended towards this direction infinitely. So how will we be able to name a line using two capital letters? We use two capital letters if a line has 2 points on it. So meaning these 2 points, as I have said a while ago, should be named or should be denoted by capital letters. So in this way, the line is named using two capital letters, or in symbol, you can write it like this, AB with the symbol of a line above, or we can read this one as line AB. Again, we can represent a line or we can name a line using two capital letters in symbol that is written like this, but we can read this one as line AB. How about naming a line using a single small letter? In this case, the small letter M doesn't represent any point on the line, but rather it represents the whole line. So it can be named line M. Can you see the difference? Yung first example natin, yung capital letters represent 2 points on a line. Yung small letter represent the whole line. Okay, so here are some of the pictorial representations of a line. The first picture we have here is pencil or our pencils. As we can see, it is a straight line. Next, we have cable wires. And lastly, we have guitar strings. Each string of the guitar represent a line. Third, on the undefined terms, we have a plane. A plane is a set of all points on a flat surface. Next, we have it extends in two dimensions. It has infinite length and infinite width, but no thickness. Okay, so this time yung plane has two dimensions. It has length and it has width. What can we say about the measurement of the length and the width? It is infinite, meaning it is endless. Yung haba niya at yung lapad niya is immeasurable because it is endless and it is infinite. But it has no thickness. Next, it is usually represented by a shape that looks like a tabletop or wall. If you can imagine a tabletop, yung taas ng mesa, or yung wall, or yung dingding, those are actually representations of a plane. Okay, so here is an illustration of a plane. A plane can be named using three capital letters that represents 3 points on the plane. Or it can also be named by a single small letter on the plane. So this plane is named plane ABC or plane BAC, plane CBA, or in any way you can arrange these 3 points. Or it can also be named plane M. Okay, so here are some of the pictorial representations of a plane. We have here the first one is a tabletop. Imagine this tabletop. Imagine that the length of this tabletop and the width of this tabletop is endless. So yung surface niya is endless but it has no thickness. That can be a representation of a plane. Next one, we have a wall. Imagine that the length and the width of the wall is infinite or endless, and it has no thickness, and that can be a representation of a plane. And lastly, we have blackboard. Just like the tabletop and the wall, if you can imagine a blackboard that has an infinite length and an infinite width but has no thickness, it can represent a plane. Okay, so those are the three undefined terms in geometry. In our next video, we are still going to discuss some of the mathematical systems. For today, that would be all. Again, God bless everyone and good day.